as a star of the future. Now she's being hailed as the new Inspector Morse, though I have to say she's slightly less wrinkled. In a 2-hour television drama in which she stars as private detective Anna Lee.
Where's our father?
Mr. Hans has to leave.
Why wasn't I told she had mental trouble? She's been here before, hasn't she? What the hell do you think you're playing at?
Mr. Hans is grateful to you for all your efforts, Miss Lee. He asked me to tell you that.
Oh.
But now that his daughter is safe and well...
Is he really her father?
What?
You heard me.
Miss Lee.
She told me her father was dead.
And look, your job is over. Your interest in this case is ended. And some of us have important work to do, so if you'd excuse me...
You pompous prat.
She's so like Miss Marple, isn't she? Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Miss Marple in a miniskirt, Imogen Stubbs. She's what you might call a feisty lady, Imogen.
Yes.
What attracted you to her as a role?
Well, I think partly because she's not cynical, and that's a nice thing to play. She's still kind of quite optimistic about human beings, and in the storyline she gets very disappointed by it, but she's still sort of young enough to sort of approach life with open eyes, and I like that.
Is it really a new approach? Because, I mean, female, well, cops, I know she's a private investigator, but female cops are not new, are they? I mean, you know,
no,
Gentle Touch, Prime Suspect with Helen Mirren, Juliet Bravo. I mean, what's she got that those female detectives didn't have?
She's got a cat. Well, I think she's very... I mean, it's not a... It's a very different kind of thing, because it's not full of policemen and drugs and violence and things. It's a people's story, and it's... I think she's meant to be slightly quirkier than those people, but also she's an apprentice. She's been chucked out of the police force for being excessively violent, although you don't really see that.
Yeah, it doesn't look as though she could be.
Well, that doesn't show in the pilot, and in... during the story, she learns a bit, but she's still very, very naive about life. And I think if there is a series of it, she's meant to develop and grow, and she's meant to be a chameleon. Her talent is she's meant to adapt herself to different situations, and sort of in that sense be a kind of actress. Whereas, like I said, she's not hardened. She's not cynical. She hasn't seen it all before, and so she's naive.
And a great change for you from classical roles with which we have come to associate you. I mean, Rainbow, things like that. Did you welcome the fact that you could step into modern life?
Yeah, I mean, I've always had to, almost everything I've done, I've had to make classical texts sound naturalistic. And I mean, I think I have a failing, which is I make naturalistic texts sound a bit classical. So I have to learn about that. But it's one of the first modern things I've done. And you know, I've never not worn a corset on television, I don't think.
So this is this Imogen Stubbs out of corset.
Out of corset into miniskirts.
Yeah, because I mean, some would say, perhaps from what they read about you, because the first scene in it, she's wearing a very short miniskirt with
which is very, very misleading.
Yeah, but very tight leg warmers, and yes, and they would say, "Oh, I'm surprised Imogen Stubbs doing something like that." I mean, did you think that when you read it, or is that?
No, because that's only. She's only trying to.
She's
trying to dress appropriately for the job, and it's a devastatingly wrong choice, and which everybody comments on. So from then on, she sort of wears skirts down to here and trousers, and she's a real tomboy. And at heart, she has this awful relationship with her boyfriend, which is very platonic to his disgruntlement, and sort of the miniskirt is a bit misleading if you think it's going to be sort of about a bimbo, because it's not.
Are you conscious in your career of making sure you do change and you do get variety? Because it must be so easy to be saddled with one kind of role, an Imogen Stubbs kind of part.
I actually read that once in the script. It sort of said wimpy female, Imogen Stubbs kind of part. So I thought, well, it's time I did something a bit more feisty. Yeah, I think so, especially as you get older and you learn more from life. That means you want to show it, and you know, I'm definitely too old to play ingenues, and I think I've done a lot of that, and I love doing that, and it's quite sad that I can't, but I'm onto the mother, spinster, sort of suicidal, depressive roles now.
Well, you see, you look younger than you are. I mean, does that mean that... You said flatteringly, I didn't mean that. But you do, I mean, surely you still get offered younger parts than you are.
I think younger than I am, but not the kind of people who run around the field going, auntie, auntie, and, you know.
What about comedy?
I'd love to do comedy. Well, I have done comedy. I did... At Stratford, when I was at Stratford, I did a comedy with Jeremy Irons, and I did an Alan Ayckbourn play, and I've done a few things. And when I was at university, I used to do a lot of revue. I think I was very brave then. You know, I used to do stand-up comedy, and now I'd be very self-conscious now,
You
but
see,
I'd
a
like
lot
to
of
do that.
actresses, a lot of classical actresses are self-confessedly frightened of comedy. I remember talking to Samantha Bond, and she said, "Oh, I just couldn't at the moment do comedy because all that work, and then somebody in the theatre coughs on your laugh line." And she said, "I really couldn't do it." So, do you have an inbuilt fear of that
Yes,
kind
I
of
do,
comedy?
and I mean it's terribly difficult. And I think when I used to do stuff at university, I was just had enormous bravado, and I don't think I heard those things. But I think once you have an image as not being particularly funny, it's quite hard to suddenly put on a different hat and say...
Well, it's image, you see. Doesn't image in the way get in the way of what you really want to do? Because
Well,
you start looking at other people's perceptions of you.
I think so. I mean, I love French and Saunders and Victoria Wood and all those sorts of things, and I often watch and think, I don't know, maybe I need a regional accent or something, or I don't know what it is
Because
I
you were
need
born in Northumberland.
Yes, I am.
Can you do Geordie?
I can. I'm not going to do it now.
No,
but
no, fellows.
I
But
can, so I mean, I'd love to do a Geordie part. Maybe I could be in Spender or whatever it's called, Catherine Cookson.
You, I mean, having alluded to your age, I mean, you're 31. You lost your father when you were 13. Your mother since died. You've had 2 long-term relationships. Now, actors are always told to draw on their experiences. You've had a powerful lot of experience for one so young. I mean, do you find that it's a reservoir for your work rather than a great sadness?
Yeah, I think inevitably for actors it is, although for comedy, losing both your parents isn't that helpful. But yes, it is, although I find it, I think it's quite difficult sometimes that when, I've said this sort of before, but when you lose your parents, I went through a phase when I felt that when I used the emotions that produced in me, that I was prostituting those emotions, and I got quite kind of lost about what I should use. But I think acting is a technique, and you learn to sort of decipher which ones are appropriate and which ones are actually exploiting something that should be left private. But I do feel that, I think for a long time, because I looked slightly younger than I was, that my face didn't really show any experience, and I felt I'd lived this huge, sad life. But I had a lovely childhood. I mean, I draw on that a lot. And
You've now got Ellie, who's 18 months old, I think. You and Trevor Nunn. So you career of a mother as well.
yes.
Is it the agonies of dividing yourself now? I mean, do you go through all
I
that?
think it is, yeah. I mean, I'm very, very privileged. I have this wonderful nanny who does a lot of that for me. But even so, you know, it is exhausting. Ellie is so naughty. She was born naughty, and she's taken to sort of smashing everything and running around the house. She's impossible.
You manage something which an awful lot of people in your position fail to do, and that is retaining a degree of privacy about your private life. I mean, everybody knows that you live with Trevor Nunn, knows that you've got a child, and yet one gets the impression that a lot of the newspapers are ferreting around, trying to get information, and you're resolutely succeeding in not giving out everything. You always regard that as very important.
I think you do. I mean, I think inevitably if you act, you are exposing yourself to the public eye, but there's a certain area where it's selective privacy, isn't it? I mean, if I do a chat show, I'm talking about a certain amount of my private life, but there are some things which I think, I'm sure everybody wants to keep some things private. I think it's very hard on people. It's become a sort of right for the media to exploit people's private lives, and I don't understand why people need to know. I feel very sorry for the royal family, you know.
Is there a degree of mischief in it a bit as well, in that after the baby was born, it was ages before we knew whether it was a boy or a girl?
No, but when I had the baby, there was somebody with a telescopic lens on the hospital in 3 days, I think, and they still didn't find out if it was a boy or a girl, so I'm sure they got the sack. But I mean, that must have been terrible journalism, because it wasn't a secret that much. But
Annalee comes on Sunday, on ITV, Sunday evening. It's a 2-hour-long piece. Are we going to get more of her if she takes off, as it were?
well, if people like her, I think they are. I mean, I hope so. It's a really fun part to do, and there are other scripts written by wonderful writers. And,
Well, Andrew Davies did this
Andrew
one.
Davies,
Anything
and
with
he's-
Andrew Davies on, I will watch.
Yeah, well, he's done another one, and Peter Ransley's done 2, which are wonderful scripts as well. And so I hope so, because they're very funny and they're very good. And they're totally different. I mean, if we do them, I have to learn ice skating, sort of hang gliding, karate. I mean, there are lots of areas she's going into.
You'll
so
cope.
I'll cope.
It's a great watch. Thank you very much indeed
Well,
for
thank
coming.
you.
A rare interview and a very enjoyable. Ladies and gentlemen,
Thank you very
Imogen
much.
Stubbs.